Welcome back to Rise Above All Odds, guys. In today's conversation, we'll be discussing the importance of imparting moral values in our children, especially given the corrupt world that we dwell in. These values, such as honesty, kindness, empathy, are the pillars that help children grow into responsible and compassionate adults. However, in a society where negative influences are everywhere, it's crucial to guide our young ones in the right direction. So today I'm joined again by our own Arnold Mabiala, who will be offering insights from a faith-based perspective, while I will try my possible best to share my thoughts from a family-based approach. Together, Arnold, myself, and you all guys, we will explore how we can equip children with the moral foundation they need to rise above all odds and navigate the challenges of life with integrity. So let's dive in. Arnold, thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you very much for having me again. I'm super excited to be here again tonight.
So, Arnold, why is it important to teach moral values to children in today's world, especially both from faith-based and family perspective?
Hmm. Thank you very much for the question. I think the thing is, we need to simplify things so to actually understand why we do what we do. Because the thing is, at the very basic level, there's a difference between a human and any other creature God has created. And the difference is, when it comes to human, God has put His own spirits in human.
Hmm.
Now, when you see a child is a creation from God and it's a gift from God Himself. So within God's characters, there is the beginning of morals. So the morals are instigated from God Himself. And because God created us in His own image, this is why we have to carry on what God has started. And when you think about children, children are shaped by what they see, by what they hear, and what they experience. Now, moral then teach them the difference between rights and wrongs. And it's so important because unless you teach them the difference between right and wrong, they will learn elsewhere. And this is the key thing. The things you don't teach your kids at home, they will learn elsewhere. Now the problem comes into how do we teach them? Because the thing is today, I know we get to that a bit later on, but the thing is we need to be very, very careful because children learn from anybody and from everybody. And very often, the parents tend to miss this aspect of things. Children learn from everybody and from anybody. And unless you teach them right from wrong, they will learn things from other sources, and then you have to do damage control later on in life.
And I'm happy when you say that God puts his spirit into us, Arnold. I agree with you. Why? Because God is an honest God.
Yes.
From the family perspective, a child who learns honesty at home is less likely to cheat in school or to
Mm,
lie to their friends, or even when faced with pressure.
mm,
The child will not lie because they want to get away with
yeah.
stuff. They will say the truth, even if it was something wrong they did, you know. And also, a child, a faith-based upbringing might teach a child that kindness is a virtue, which leads
Mm,
them to stand up for a bullied classmate instead of being a bystander. And also, a family that prioritizes respect ensures that a child grows up like speaking politely to elders and treating everyone fairly regardless of background. On this note, I would just like people to contribute in the chat section. Obviously we are African, and respect is a very big thing within our communities. In my culture, you cannot take something from your elder with your left hand. That is disrespectful. When you
mm,
instill that in your children and they already know that this is what you should do and what you should not do, I think
mm,
things can always go well, or at least better than they should have, if we just
mm.
stay quiet. Also like to know, how can we
Yes.
support children in staying true to their values when they are exposed to external pressures such as peer influence, social media, and societal norms?
Yes. Thank you for the question. I think the Bible says that teach a child in the path they should follow. because when they grow up, they will not depart from it. So what the Bible is trying to say is the way you can support your child is to go from the very beginning, but when they're still young, in a way, lay down the foundation, lay down the roots while they're still young. If you teach them right from wrong according to God's way while they're still young, so when they grow up, it's like a tree that has roots deep down in the soil. The wind can come, that tree will still be standing. And the
Mm-hmm.
way we can support them is everything starts with family.
Mm-hmm.
Parents must have that responsibility. Your child is the fruit of your loins. And you have to say, you decide how you're going to educate or teach your child and what you're going to teach them. So it starts with the family when the child is still very young, in your arms, when they're still following you, when they're still toddlers. That's why you should start teaching them. Don't wait until they're older and expect them to make decisions. You start thinking from a very early age. You set the tone, give them a really solid foundation. And then, like I said, kids learn by watching more than by hearing. And
Mm.
parents have to demonstrate what they teach because kids can easily pick up on signals. And sometimes you see, sometimes a child may tell you, well, you told me not to lie, but you just lied. So the first thing to do is, as a parent, it reflects the teachings or the morals you're trying to teach. If you want your child to stop lying, they did not lie. You
Mm.
want them to be honest, learn to be honest with them because they will mirror what you're doing. And it starts with parents. That's why I say 90% of kids' education must come from the parents, a reflection of the parents. And very often, when a child begins to misbehave or to start doing things that are not right, first we gotta look at the parents. Very often, the children are a reflection of parents, whether we like it or not.
That's so true. And I know this brings back the idea of role modeling to mind, because if you don't intentionally choose to be a role model to your child, somebody else will. Talking about the social media and all of these things, we know if his child is maybe pressured to join in teasing a classmate, they can
Mm,
be reminded of the importance of kindness and encouraged to walk away or defend their peer, because that is what mom teaches them at home. That is what dad teaches them. That is what they learn from aunties and uncles. That is good to be kind. Be kind to your brother. Be kind to your sister. Be kind even to friends and teachers back at school. When that is already recorded in them, that is why it needs to start from that early age, nurturing them into that direction. And of course, they will go in the direction they should, as the Bible recommends we should do. Even when a child sees some inappropriate content online, parents should take the courage to discuss it openly, explaining why certain behaviors or words do not align with their family values. Sometimes I take it a bit too far, Arnold, you'll not believe. I
mm,
discuss everything and anything with my children. Sometimes people might think that you're opening them, exposing them to a bit too much. This is the social media era. You cannot stop
yes,
your teenager from being on social media, because if you say don't be on Facebook, they go and join with it with a pseudo name. You will not
yeah,
know that they are the ones, and then they will learn to go and tap into all of those things you don't want them to go into. So let
mm,
them be there. You know that they are there. When you see them watching stuff or you see stuff like this, open up and discuss, call every bad thing by its name, so that you will have the
yes,
opportunity to explain that this is the badness of this thing, this is how bad it is, and this is the goodness of the other part of it. So it's just a kind of thing, being real. If we try to make stereotype leadership, you want them to be what you say and not what you do, like you rightly
yes,
say, and it will never work.
mm,
Equally
mm,
teaching them to confidently say no when
yeah,
friends try to pressure them into bad decisions such as stealing or lying. This helps to build their resilience. You say no because you can't do it, then you can't do it. Even if they are angry, stand your grounds, because at the end of it, you will celebrate yourself. Say, I'm thankful to God I said no, because if I went with them, maybe to scribble on that car or to throw stones at those at somebody's windscreen or do any of those things, I would have been caught with them now wherever they are.
yes,
All
yes,
right.
you are. Yeah, very well
Yeah.
done. And especially, you just mentioned something that's very crucial, teaching them to say no. Because In today's society, even adults struggle to say no.
Mm.
People see things that are wrong. They rather say nothing than say no. And I think teaching your child at a very young age to say no is a powerful thing. Because if they can say no, then they can retain that power. Because inability to say no gives away the power to the person or to the party who's pressuring you. And by saying no, you're actually withholding that power. And saying no is a powerful tool for a child to learn. And also saying no without feeling guilty.
Yep.
Sometimes people can say no and feel guilty. We need to teach children when you say no to what is wrong, there shouldn't be any guilt attached to that. Because another thing, the way people tend to, especially peer pressure, they tend
Mm.
to manipulate children's emotion into saying, listen, if you do this, maybe you're not a good friend. And they may think, okay, if I say no, I'm not a good friend. But if you can teach them at home, say no to evil or to bad thing and don't feel guilty, when that manipulation comes, your child will not fall for that.
That's so true, Arnold. And it starts from childhood because we as adults, I don't know about you, I've been struggling like all my life to say no because
Yes.
you feel that you are going to lose popularity, you will lose friends, you will lose likability and stuff like that because you said no when you were supposed or you had to say yes, maybe to save somebody from a situation or stuff like that. Saying
Mm,
no is a very powerful and empowering tool.
yes.
It gives, yeah, because this child is like, no, I'm not doing it because it's not right, and no means no. So if we don't start from now and putting it and then encouraging and reminding them over and
Yeah.
over and over, then
Mm,
they end up still like us. So sometimes we just want to correct our mistakes, how bad it feels now. We want to
mm,
tell our children that if you don't learn how to do it now, tomorrow you'll be in my situation. I think
yes.
that's a good one to actually take home.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, when you think about the faith community, what role they play, huge role. I mean, if I remember from my own experience, from a very young age, my parents would send me to Sunday school. Why? Because they knew by going to Sunday school, I will learn the things that the streets will not teach me. Why? Because in the church, in the faith community, they have those guidelines we call the Bible. And those are God's words. And we know from God's word, our that's the basis of our values. I mean, let's take the Ten Commandments. I mean, they encompasses everything in life, the Ten Commandments. And then the faith community then has the responsibility to teach children from the scripture. And we know that the Bible is not just a random book. I mean, even other religion, they believe that the Bible contains some moral values that are relevant in today's society. So this faith community has a huge impact in teaching children. Now, how can family collaborate with them? Well, the family first needs to understand the church and the family go hand in hand. There is no church without family. There is no faith community without family. So the church actually, so the family in itself should see, okay, where do we stand in relation to the faith community? And then by working hand in hand with it, so when you send your child to Sunday school, and then you ask them, what did you learn today? And then as a parent in a family setting, reinforce those things. If they learn, do not steal. When they come home, as a parents, reinforce those things. Remind, hey, remember what you learned in the church, in the Sunday school, or remember what you learned when you went to that faith meeting. And it's parents reinforcing what is being taught in a faith-based community. That's the only way parents can partner, collaborate with the faith-based community and see the children actually grow up in a way that God intended them to grow.
The time raising a child is actually and it's a job of the entire community, your
Mm,
church or whatever you worship in, and then your children. For us, we take them
mm,
to church and do all of those things. So faith-based mentorships ship programs can connect children with responsible adults who
mm,
serve as moral role models, of course, to beyond their parent. Like we are speaking, Arnold sitting here. If you missed out on our very first discussion about finding the children's identity nowadays in the 21st century, you need to watch that. Arnold is a youth, right? I can trust Arnold with my children. If I am traveling and I'm really struggling, I want to keep my teenagers behind, I can keep them with Arnold for as long as it takes because I know what Arnold believes, I know what Arnold teaches, right? Because it takes just a second. It takes
yes,
just a second for your child to go wrong and never come back the other direction
mm,
again. When
mm,
children learn those moral values, stand on them. It's a solid foundation. It is
mm,
unshakable. It's unbreakable. And I think we don't go wrong with that. Arnold, I always like to see if you have something to say after I speak so that I'm sure I'm
yes,
moving your direction.
yes, absolutely. And I mean, I really like something you mentioned there.
Mm.
So because nowadays we live in a time where people think that you can mess with evil, or you can mess with things that are wrong and still be okay. I mean,
Right. That's
for
a sweet
example,
way of putting it. Sorry.
yes, yeah, because for example, many children they will grow up thinking I can tell a very small lies and I can get by. It's okay. I mean, nobody gets hurt. But the problem is, I think you mentioned it earlier, the line between good and it takes one small thing for a child to derail. And very often, it's not a big thing that tend to cause them to drift away. It's those very basic things, like telling what we call white lies, half truth, half lie. You think I can just I can tell a small lie that should be fine. you know I can just pretend to do this. No, it's not that bad. But actually, the things we tend to think are not important are the ones that are taking our children and our young people towards the other destination, and only because we have lowered down our standards and we think that we can play or entertain what is wrong under the umbrella of it's not harmless. It's just harmless fun. And I think that's very important to know as well.
So, from a family perspective, there are some practical ways we can model, moral values in our daily lives to ensure that our children adopt them. So, Arnold, if you let me, I'll try to go first now and see how you fit in
That's
after me.
wonderful.
Right? So,
That's okay.
yeah, so I would start by saying, if a parent finds, for example, a wallet on the street and
Mm,
returns it instead of keeping the money, their
mm,
child sees the value of honesty in action. I think this sounds like something you said earlier on at the very beginning. You said children, they watch what we do, right? So if daddy picks up that, finds that wallet and then takes it and then says, oh, there's some good number of pounds in here, I'll take
mm,
it and put it in my pocket and maybe throw away the wallet or dump it and stuff like that. The child is like,
mm.
all right, if daddy does it, then it's doable. I'm going to do it. Right. So Arnold, from your own
Yes.
perspective, how can faith teaching support this effort, like what I've just said?
Yeah. I think you covered that very, very well. I mean, like I said, how often parents themselves have fallen victim of their own teachings. They teach kids, you should never steal. And then they find the wallets on the streets and they keep the money. And then you want your child not to learn not to steal. What you did is just stealing. Like you say, you lead by example, and you have to set an example because your children will look at you and say, you know what? When I was a child, my mom found the wallets and he gave it back. She didn't keep it. Therefore, I should do the same because those stories.
Arnold, from your own
Yes,
perspective, how can faith teaching support this effort, like what I've just said?
yeah, I think you covered that very, very well. Like I said, how often parents themselves have fallen victim of their own teachings. They teach kids, you should never steal. And then they find the wallets on the streets and they keep the money. And then you want your child not to learn not to steal. What you did is just stealing. Like you say, you lead by example, and you have to set an example because your children will look at you and say, you know what? When I was a child, my mom found the wallets and he gave it back. She didn't keep it. Therefore, I should do the same because those stories, these things stay in the memories. These are the things they remember. Very often, children, we don't remember everything, but there are key moments or key situations in lives that we stay with them forever. One of those are when parents do the right thing or when parents do the wrong thing. Those two things we stay with them.
Just we have a lot of work to do, guys. That is why we cannot, there's nobody, there's no super mama, there's no super papa, there's no super couple, there's just a super community to raise
Mm,
just that one single soul, one time, one step at a time. I always like taking it back home to Africa because we're a real community.
mm,
If I notice my neighbor, I know that that's my son and he's going wrong. He
mm.
whips the devil out of you. It's like,
Yeah.
listen, you
Yes.
don't do this. You are not allowed to do it. And then you
Mm,
get in trouble even before you get home. And it's solved, it's settled before mommy and daddy come back. So it's a
mm,
whole thing. It's a communal responsibility and not just one individual. But then
mm,
basically, we have to do it first. We have to take the lead. Parents do face challenges like when teaching moral values, and
mm,
so we have a few ways of addressing such difficulties,
mm.
effectively from both family and faith standpoint. Maybe I'll let you go first in this case, Arnold.
Yes, I think I mean, it's so true that parents are facing challenges, and the thing is, if you look at it, as a child is developing, by the time they start school, in their mind, their teachers are always right, and the parents are wrong. So for them, the minute they test school, they think their teacher is clever, wiser than even the parents. And that's where the first challenge starts when a child starts going to school. Because wherever the school is teaching them, that child will bring it back home and then exchange that with the reality they've been experiencing at home. Then they will ask, Mom, Dad, my teacher says this. What do you think? Now, this is where parent, very often the parent will shut them down. Now, by shutting them down, you're actually stealing the opportunity of having an open conversation with them. So, what my advice would be, please do not shut your child down, even when they bring an idea or a teaching that are opposed to what you know. Now, use that as an opportunity to have a conversation with them and let them understand why you stick with the teaching you have and help them understand that's why you're trying to reject the teaching they gain elsewhere. And I think, listen, we live in a time where, I mean, we have a wonderful education system. Our schools and colleges, the teachers are doing a great job. But at the same time, some of the challenges parents are facing are also coming from schools. And this is where parents should be open and be willing to have that open conversation, open discussion. Never see your child having a different view as a threat to you, but you see that as an opportunity for you and your child to have an open conversation. Because trust me, your child will respect you more if you had a conversation with them than if you shout at them and try to shut them down. So one of the challenges is the teaching they get from school. And the second challenge is the teachings or the thing they're learning from their own friends of the same age. Because every family is different. Every family have their own standards. Now, when kids or children play together, they exchange. They will say, "Oh, in my house, my dad does this, my mom does that." And again, now what they hear outside, they bring it home. And that brings a challenge to the parents. And then the third thing is the things they pick up either on social media or on a screen. That could be TV or radio. The things our children are being exposed to on TV or radio or mobile phone, those things are bringing, serious challenges to parents. And very often, parents are not even aware of the things the children have been learning
Hmm.
because they don't know how to monitor the exposure of their children are getting. And then another thing is, you just look around us, the environments. We have billboards, advertisements that pretty much advertise any and everything in the streets. And it's not that hard for a child to stop and look at an image that we put somewhere. And then they can come home and say, "Oh, I saw a picture there, somebody who's not dressed, fully dressed.
Hmm.
Is that okay to behave like that?" Now, when the child brings that home, it becomes a challenge. So just to summarize, one thing is obviously the thing they learn at school, and then the thing they learn from their friends, the things they learn from the screen or social media or TV or radio, and the things they learn in environments. Those are some of the key
Wow.
challenges parents are facing.
I know when you were talking, so many things were coming to my mind, Arnold, because I thought about the analogy of a farmer. You know what farmers do? When they plant their crops, they go around the weed, they take out the weed so that the plants will grow healthy and stuff like that. And what the beautiful society of today does is help us plant the weeds back into our children.
Mm,
So we need to be very busy. We just need to
yes,
be busy. The moment they plant one, we uproot it. The moment we
yes.
plant one, we take it off. Because you
Mm,
wait for them to plant, you say, I'll wait for them to get a few more, then it's
mm,
going to be really late. It's going to be
mm,
very, very late. One fact is that you cannot control what your child will hear, read, or listen to because it
mm,
comes just like that before you know it. But
mm,
we need to do is keep on reminding them and reinforcing the values over
mm,
and over and over and over again. I told you we had a chat earlier, a couple of days ago, when I was telling you how I started homeschooling. My 5 year old, he was 4, getting to 5. He goes to school. The first thing he comes and tells me after a couple of weeks is, "Mama, you know what? I can be what I want to be." And then the older
mm,
sister gives more information to that, which means they equip them. They
mm,
layer up the information according age appropriate information of the
mm,
weeds. They plant them according to the ages. By the time they get to you or myself, our ages, they are well equipped to destroy the world for us, or to
yes.
be bad leaders, or to find themselves in trouble in one way or the other. Raising a good child nowadays who will make a good leader tomorrow and have a beautiful world takes sacrifice. It takes
Mm,
beating the body. It takes effort. And overall, it takes trusting God. Some of us will pray. The law will say at some age, children can choose to do what they want to do with themselves. If they want to be taking maybe these pills to prevent pregnancies and all of
mm,
those things. Meanwhile, at home, you teach your child abstinence. Say, hold on,
mm,
these things are good, but then you only enjoy them when they come in due time. This is
mm,
why you should practice abstinence, modesty, and all of those things. Because
mm,
when you do it now, you can get in trouble. If you're a girl, you get pregnant and drop out of school. If you're a boy,
mm,
you get a teenage parent and stuff like that. You're struggling with raising children and going to school. The two do
mm,
not go together. But then the
yeah.
society will tell you, no, you can do that. They have the right and things like that. But you just
Mm,
need to blink, because the moment you blink, they take over you. Before you know it, your child is gone wrong and you're crying and blaming yourself. It's going to be really late. So
mm,
we have work to do. We have work to do. I would really want to hear what other people think about this.
mm,
So, Arnold, how do we teach children to apply moral values in real life situations? Like handling conflicts, making
mm.
decisions, or interacting with their peers.
Yes, yes. And I think we always said that, I mean, in medicine, they say prevention is better than cure. So, in a sense, if you can teach a child how to recognize um, things while they're still small, that will help them to avoid things from escalating. And I mean, when it comes to things like that, one thing we should remember, very often children are not as stupid or vague as we think they are. They think, and they have feelings, they have emotions. They're real humans. They experience things just like any other human being will do. Now, in a situation of a conflict, so one thing you should understand, conflicts is a result of an unmet expectation. So children have expectation. And when those expectations are not met, whether it's in a family situation or in a friend group situation, the first reaction is to bring up their walls. So that means I need to be good on the offense. Therefore, I need to defend myself. Now, teaching a child that instead of always going on the offense, Sometimes it's okay to take a step back. That's a good thing because even many adults cannot do that. Just taking a step back in a when there's a conflict or when there's a situation that is uncomfortable. The first option is okay, I will attack because I feel like my right has been violated. You know, my expectation have not been met. Therefore, I have the right to do this. But we need to teach the child, listen, when that happens, instead of doing this, take a step back. Don't always go on the offense. And then that will teach a child self-control from a very young age. Because unless they learn self-control, they become like fire.
Hmm.
They can burn themselves and everything else around them if they're not controlled. And this is the key thing. We think that self-control only applies to adults, but actually it has to be taught from a young age. Because a child who has no self-control is like a grenade with a pin that's been already pulled out. They can explode at any time. And these kind of people become a danger to themselves and to the society because they cannot handle conflicts and then they can explode at anybody at any time. Conflict is not always a bad thing. That's another thing to teach children. Conflict is not a bad thing. As humans, we face conflict in life. So conflicts, the way you react to conflicts, determine your outlook in life. Because very often we said, okay, just avoid conflict. No, children should not be scared of conflicts, but they should know how to handle them. And going on the offense is not always the best way to do it. Sometimes it's always good. Take a step back. So that's what I would
Wow.
say.
Yeah, and I think that's powerful. So, I really agree with you on that, Arnold, because children need to know that sometimes it can go the opposite direction. You cannot be right all the time.
Mm,
You need to be patient. You need to take a deep breath.
yes.
So a child who is taught respect will choose to calmly explain their feelings instead of shouting during a disagreement with a child or with
Mm,
another friend, right? Because that shouting, just the fact that you raised your voice, you blow off the other person. There would never be agreement anymore because you provoke, you ignite anger or another reaction from the other person. It becomes chaos, and so there's no agreement, there's no resolution, and we people get in trouble. So children, like you
mm,
rightly say, need to be taught how to accept and to take their time. Explain yourself. Don't shout. That is respect. Respect for yourself in the first place, respect for your friend and to the elderly person or whoever the mediator who is trying to listen to see how they can strike a balance so that you make it up again. Right?
yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it comes now. We have to think about advice. So, what advice would you give maybe to parents who might be struggling with instilling moral values in their children? From both perspectives. I know that there's a lot of struggle. Some people
Mm,
start late because some
yes.
people deceive themselves. They think that when you let your child do stuff and get away with it, you are loving
Mm,
them. You don't love your
mm,
child by letting them go wrong. So, what
no.
advice do you have to those who are struggling? I know you go first.
Yes. And I think my first advice would be do not blame yourself. Because the first
Wow.
thing when a child is not doing the right thing is for the parent to say, I have failed as a parent. And I hear that with many parents who say that I have failed. And then by saying that you have failed, that means you'll be acting from a position of failure. Therefore, you cannot win a victory from a position of failure. So please do not blame yourself. You know, life gives you an endless of opportunity. You may have made a mistake, but that doesn't mean you have failed. You can have a second chance to start again. And if you feel like, you know what, I'm struggling, first of all, do not say I failed, because that will automatically disqualify you from even doing anything else. And the second thing is then take a look at yourself. Say to yourself, what is it about me that I can see in my child? Because your child is your reflection, whether you like it or not. So if my child is misbehaving, I need to look inside myself. What is it about me that I can see in this child? Because very often, if a child grows up in a space where there's insecurity and arguments and conflicts, that will be expressed in a child in a form of misconduct or anger. So the parent need to look at themselves and say, hey, what is it? What environment have I created for my child to grow up in? Please don't blame yourself, but please be honest with yourself. That's when you actually look to yourself, say, okay, what environment if I created or am I creating for my child to grow up in? That's number two. And number three, say to yourself, okay, this is the reality. Acknowledge the reality. Yes, there's a problem. My child is misbehaving and I'm struggling to get them back on the right path. The fact that you acknowledge there's a problem gives you ground on which you can stand and act. And then the fourth thing is, please do not be ashamed or embarrassed to ask for help. Like you said earlier, it takes a village to raise a child. And don't think that you have to do it on your own. Help is always available, but you have to ask for it.
Hmm.
Please don't be afraid to ask for help.
Wow. That is so, so, so powerful. Arnold, you said one thing, you said a lot of things, but one particular thing stood out. Reminding yourself, like reflect, looking in the mirror. What am I seeing in my child?
Mm,
I think that this comes from me, that comes from me. Because sometimes, like you say, all the times though, we are the role models, they see what we do and they do just the same. But
mm,
that idea of stopping for a minute and thinking, what do I say, what do I do, that he sees and copies, he listens
mm,
and copies, I think it goes a long way. I really appreciate that point. And in addition, a child, if a child frequently lies, instead of pushing them harshly or
mm.
punishing them, parents can reinforce trust by rewarding honesty in small situations. We, you
Yes.
know, when they do one thing, when they do one honest thing, or they say the truth, thank them and tell them that you did well. I'm proud of you. Because sometimes children fear to tell the truth to stay away from getting in trouble.
Mm,
Because they're like, if I tell mom that I actually broke that plate, I may get in trouble. So I say I
mm,
didn't do it. But then
mm.
if they break the plate and say, Mom, unfortunately, I was doing this and the plate broke, I say, oh, it's all right. It's just on plate. Put in the bin. But I'm happy that you let me know so that your brother doesn't get in trouble. I think you know this. Many times you get
Yes.
in trouble for your brother's crime and the other way around, just
Yes.
because somebody had
Yes.
to lie to stay.
Yes.
So all of those
Yes.
things are avoidable if we encourage them by
Yes.
appreciating the other way around.
Mm,
Parents struggling with teaching respect can set house rules and stuff like that. But the only thing is being mild. It goes
yes.
a long way. And of course, as a Christian family, as a faith-based family, we encourage children to reflect on their actions. Reflection again,
Mm,
Arnold. Reflection
yes.
on their actions in prayer or quiet time. This
Yes.
helps to kind of internalize values rather than just obey rules blindly. I think I do
Mm,
this to even to my little 6-year-old. Sometimes when he gets, because sometimes he can do, when he starts throwing the tantrums because he thinks that he is the youngest one and can get away with all stuff. I say, sit on the steps, think about yourself, pray and ask God to help you. Then he
mm,
goes and sits there like that. After a minute or two, or how much time you gave him, he come down and say, I'm sorry. I say, yeah, what are you sorry about? He says what he's sorry about. Then you
mm,
explain, next time don't do that, because when you do this, it's not good and stuff like that. It has to, you need to learn. That is when we learn how to be patient. We learn
mm,
how to bite our
yes.
teeth, and just because it gets really to the point where you yourself, if you are not careful, you will take anger and destroy the whole thing for them. So Arnold, I
Mm,
believe we can go on and on and on and on. I'll
mm,
give you 1 minute to say maybe a final word of encouragement, or whether call to action or whatever, to young people. And why not parents? We are all a whole community. To whoever you want to address, it's yours now.
yes. Yes. And I mean, my last advice to parents is this: it doesn't matter how your child is behaving, never use negative words to curse or to condemn your child. Because very often, when a child is misbehaving, parents will start calling them names. Now, words of parents will cut deeper in the children's hearts like never before, like any sharp objects. So, regardless if you're struggling to raise them in the right way, if they're misbehaving, never use negative words to label them or to call them names or to curse them because that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. Never do that. And the second thing is, help is available. Don't be ashamed. We all in a journey of learning. And if you need help, please contact Comfort is here, contact her. You can contact us. There are people here who are here to put their arms around you. And the reason we do this discussion is because we want to help our community raise our children in such a way that we step back 10, 20 years from now and say, wow, look at my child. And we feel proud of them. That's our goal. So please don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Never use negative words to curse or to label your child. And please don't be afraid to ask for help. We can help, and we know that God is also there to help.
Right.
Thank you.
Wow. That was powerful, Arnold. Thank you so much, guys. So I think we can go on and on. I will never finish this discussion, but let's continue this in the chat section. We want to hear from others. Arnold and myself, we do come back and read the comments to see
Yes.
how it is
Yes.
going. So we would like to wrap up by saying that raising children with strong moral values is a shared responsibility.
Mm,
So, whether from a faith-based or family perspective, it's crucial that we guide them with love, understanding, and of course, consistency. That is the word, consistency. So,
mm,
thank you, Arnold, for sharing your insights, and thank you to the viewers for joining us in this important discussion. If you find the conversation helpful, why not like, comment, and subscribe to Rise Above All Odds? We would love to hear your thoughts on how you impart moral values in your families. Let's
mm.
keep this conversation going. Together, guys, we can help the next generation rise above all the challenges. Thank
Yes,
you and see you
absolutely.
in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.